Love, such a simple word, just 4 letters, yet so infinitely complex. It is a force that compels, confounds, and captivates, weaving itself into the fabric of every human life. To one, love feels like a rush of exhilaration, a sudden ignition of hope, a beacon that draws the soul out of its solitude. To another, it is a balm, soothing wounds left by the harshness of existence. Yet, as Carl Jung observed, sometimes what we perceive as love is not love at all, but rather the reflection of our own wounded shadow. It is the echo of pain, longing to be healed, masquerading as affection, yearning, devotion. Imagine a man alone with his thoughts, pondering the nature of the feeling that has overtaken him. His heart beats faster at the sight of another. His mind is consumed by fantasies of connection, of intimacy, of acceptance. He believes it is love, a pure and noble emotion, a sign of his deepest self reaching outward. But beneath the surface, something else stirs. It is the shadow, the part of himself he has hidden away, his fears of abandonment, his yearning for validation, his ache for wholeness. This shadow is wounded, scarred by the disappointments of childhood, the betrayals of friends, the loneliness of nights spent searching for meaning. It whispers to him, weaving its longing into the tapestry of his passion. The shadow, in Jungian psychology, represents the unconscious aspects of the personality, the traits, desires, and memories that the conscious mind cannot or will not face. It is the sum of all that is denied, rejected, or forgotten. And when wounded, the shadow does not remain silent. It seeks expression. Sometimes it finds that expression in what we call love. The man feels drawn to another, not because of who they truly are, but because they mirror back to him the lost pieces of himself. He mistakes this resonance for love, but it is not love. It is the shadow's longing to be made whole. How often do we fall into this trap? How often do we chase after relationships, not out of genuine affection, but out of an unconscious desire to heal our own wounds? The shadow's voice is subtle. It tells us that we need another to complete us, to validate our worth, to soothe our pain. We project our own unmet needs onto the beloved, seeing in them the promise of redemption. We believe that if only they would love us, our suffering would end. Yet, love that emerges from the wounded shadow is never truly fulfilling. It is riddled with anxiety, expectation, and disappointment. It is love that clings, that demands, that fears loss. It is love born of lack, not abundance. Jung teaches us that to truly love, we must first confront our shadow. We must recognize the wounds that shape our desires and bring them into the light of consciousness. Only then can we distinguish between love that is genuine and love that is merely the shadow's cry for help. This process is not easy. It requires courage, the courage to face our own pain, our own darkness without flinching. It requires honesty, the honesty to admit that sometimes what we call love is really a longing for healing. It requires compassion, the compassion to forgive ourselves for our wounds and to seek wholeness within, rather than outside ourselves. Consider the man again, sitting alone with his thoughts. He asks himself, is it truly love that I feel, or is it my wounded shadow speaking? He remembers moments from his childhood, the times he felt unseen, unheard, unloved. He recalls the ache that never left him, the hollow inside that he tried to fill with achievements, with friendships, with romance. He understands now that his longing for another is not just about connection. It is about healing. It is about finding in another what he cannot find in himself. This realization is painful, but it is also liberating. For the first time, he sees the truth of his desires. He recognizes that the beloved is not responsible for his healing. That burden is his alone to carry. He begins the work of integration, bringing the wounded shadow into the light. He learns to love himself, not in the narcissistic sense of self-indulgence, but in the profound sense of acceptance. He embraces his flaws, his fears, his vulnerabilities. He sees that he is worthy, not because another loves him, but because he is whole within himself. As this inner transformation unfolds, the nature of his love changes. It becomes less about possession, more about appreciation, less about need, more about generosity, less about filling a void, more about sharing abundance. He is no longer desperate for validation, for reassurance, for completion. He is able to love freely, without expectation, without fear. He offers love as a gift, not as a transaction. This is the love that Jung points us toward, a love that arises from wholeness, not from woundedness. It is a love that does not cling, but embraces. It does not demand, but invites. It does not fear loss, but cherishes presence. It is a love that is rooted in self-awareness, in the integration of shadow and light. But how do we reach this place? How do we distinguish between love and the shadow's longing? The journey begins with self-reflection. We must ask ourselves difficult questions. What am I seeking in this relationship? Do I feel whole when I am alone, or do I only feel complete when I am with another? Am I drawn to this person because of who they are, or because of what they offer me? A sense of security, of validation, of worth. We must examine our patterns. Do we repeatedly fall for the same types of people, those who mirror our wounds rather than our strengths? Do we find ourselves trapped in cycles of dependency, of jealousy, of anxiety? Do we feel threatened by the possibility of loss, or do we trust in the resilience of our own heart? We must be honest about our fears. Are we afraid to be alone, to face the emptiness within ourselves? Do we use love as a distraction from our own pain, as a way to avoid confronting the shadow? Do we believe, deep down, that we are unworthy of love unless another bestows it upon us? Through this process of inquiry, the truth emerges. We see the shadow for what it is, a wounded part of ourselves, longing to be healed. We recognize that love cannot heal the shadow. Only self-awareness and acceptance can do that. We learn to offer compassion to ourselves, to forgive our own wounds, to nurture our own soul. In doing so, we transform our relationships. We become less reactive, less needy, less afraid. We are able to offer love from a place of abundance, not lack. We are able to receive love without clinging, without demanding, without fearing loss. We are able to see the beloved as they truly are, not as a projection of our own unmet needs. This is not a destination, but a journey. The shadow will always be with us, whispering its desires, its fears, its longings. But as we become more aware, we learn to recognize its voice. We learn to differentiate between the shadow's longing and the heart's true love. We learn to embrace both, to honor both, but not to confuse them. To love is to risk, to open oneself to vulnerability, to the possibility of pain. But to love from wholeness is to risk with courage, with faith, with trust. It is to know that whatever happens, we are enough. We do not need another to complete us. We are complete within ourselves. We do not need another to heal us. We are capable of healing ourselves. This is the gift of self-awareness, the gift of integration. It is the gift that Jung offers us, the invitation to see beyond the illusion of love as the shadow's longing, to embrace the reality of love as the soul's offering. Imagine now the man who has done this work. He enters into relationship not as a beggar, but as a giver. He does not seek to possess, but to appreciate. He does not need, but offers. His love is a reflection of his own wholeness, not his woundedness. He is able to celebrate the beloved, to honor their uniqueness, to support their growth. He is able to be present, to listen, to empathize. He is able to love freely without fear. And when pain arises, as it inevitably does, he does not blame the beloved, nor does he retreat into despair. He turns inward to his own shadow and offers it compassion. He sees pain not as a sign of failure, but as an opportunity for growth. He learns from his wounds, and in doing so, he becomes more whole. This is the path of conscious love, the path of integration, the path of wholeness. It is a path that requires courage, honesty, and compassion. It is a path that leads not to the illusion of completion through another, but to the reality of fulfillment within oneself. Carl Jung's insight is profound. What we often call love is merely the wounded shadow speaking. It is the echo of our own pain, longing to be healed. But if we are willing to face the shadow, to bring it into the light, we can transform our relationships. We can move from love as longing to love as offering. We can move from dependency to generosity. We can move from fear to trust. This transformation is not easy. It requires us to confront the deepest parts of ourselves, to face our own vulnerability, to accept our own wounds. But in doing so, we discover a love that is deeper, richer, more fulfilling than anything the shadow can offer. We discover a love that is rooted in wholeness, in self-awareness, in integration. So the next time you find yourself swept up in the intensity of feeling, pause. Ask yourself, is this love, or is it my wounded shadow speaking? Listen to the whisper of your soul and have the courage to face your own pain. Offer yourself compassion and seek wholeness within. Only then will you be able to offer true love, a love that is free, generous, and abundant. This is the journey of transformation, the journey from shadow to light, from woundedness to wholeness, from longing to love. It is the journey that Jung invites us to undertake, a journey that leads not to the illusion of completion through another, but to the reality of fulfillment within ourselves. And as we walk this path, we discover that love is not something we receive, but something we become. It is not something we seek, but something we offer. It is not something we need, but something we share. Love, in its truest form, is the expression of our own wholeness, the gift we give to ourselves and to others, the light that shines from within, illuminating the path to healing, to integration, to true connection. In the end, to love is to embrace both the shadow and the light, to honor both the wounds and the wholeness, to offer compassion to ourselves and to others. It is to see beyond the illusion, to recognize the truth, to live from the fullness of our own being. This is the love that endures, that heals, that transforms. This is the love that Jung calls us to seek, a love that is not the wounded shadow speaking, but the soul singing its song of wholeness.